What's up, family? Welcome back to another episode of the One Fourth Careers podcast. I'm Xavier, your host, and I'm here with Chris. Chris graduated from Baruch College with a Bachelor of Business Administration and Finance with dual minor in complex mathematics and corporate communications in 2019. Now, Chris works as a contracts management specialist at Boeing Defense. Chris is also the CEO of Rangon Career Services, where he serves as an entry-level career coach and mentor. Chris, welcome to the pod, man. Thank you so much for coming through.
Thank you so much for having me, Xavier. I really appreciate it, brother. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, super excited for this conversation. How's your summer going so far?
Summer is going well. I am actually preparing for a Spartan race that's going to come up in the next month, and things have been going great so far here in Philly. How about you?
Yeah, things are good, man. You already know on my end, new dad at work, managing life. Funny enough, we'll actually talk about some of that. Any advice you have on people managing life. So excited to get some advice from you that I know will help me personally, but also will help a lot of others going on out there. So super excited to have you, man. To get started, want to ask you a little bit about your background. What can you share for viewers and listeners a little bit more about Chris?
Yeah, absolutely. And again, Xavier, thanks for having me on. So, um, I am originally from New York. I'm from Brooklyn, was born in Brooklyn, raised in Jamaica, Queens. Um, I was the first generation in my family to go to college. Was raised by a single mother who immigrated from the Caribbean, and I'm just super blessed and grateful, to be here, and just to have the opportunity to go through college and life and things of that nature. So, in regards to, a little bit about me and my background, I studied finance, as you mentioned, at Baruch College. But ever since high school, I knew that I was very passionate about aviation and aerospace. I've always loved to fly when I was a kid. And I always loved, just the views from up above. I feel like it really does give you a different perspective in every way, shape, or form. So I decided, even though I wanted to study business and go to college for finance, I really wanted to get involved in the aviation space. And right now, I actually work for Boeing. I was a part of a rotational program that was mainly involved in finance and business, and I had the chance to do different rotations. And right now, I support the contracts function, and I work on the defense side, supporting the V-22 vertical lift.
Yeah, good stuff. I know you've always been doing some cool things, getting some updates here and there on LinkedIn. So it's always been nice seeing you in the rotation program or just doing different roles. And I think it's really cool that you even called out. You intentionally chose to work at Boeing because of your interest within the aerospace industry, which I think is huge for people who maybe haven't entered the workforce where they want to work at yet. It's cool to know that you can have that intention or you can take that path based on your interests. Sometimes individuals are interested in something and they don't know how they can contribute and stay in that space. You didn't maybe mention you wanted to be a pilot, but based on this next segment, we will find out. But even though you are not a pilot, you are still working in aerospace. You found your own niche and area of interest of how you wanted to still contribute to your broader area that you wanted to go in. So, as I mentioned, not to tease any longer, next first segment here at One Fourth Careers Podcast is called the Step Back. A little bit of a sports reference, but we are stepping back from your current career at Boeing. And I want to ask you, what did you actually want to be growing up?
Great question. So I actually wanted to be a brain surgeon while growing up. I remember vividly, I was 9 years old and I'm like, yes, I want to be a brain surgeon, because to me, that sounded like one of the fanciest things just to do when I was a kid, until I realized I hated the sight of blood. Like, I would just get so queasy and uncomfortable. And I'm like, no, like being a brain surgeon or even being in the medical field is really not for me. At one point, too, I wanted to be a police officer, but that just kind of died out relatively quickly.
Mhm.
And it wasn't until I would say fast forward all the way to high school, as mentioned, that spark for aviation was really born. So yeah, I wanted to be a couple of things when I was a kid, but mainly a brain surgeon and a police officer.
Okay. All
Yeah.
right. That's a cool evolution, if you will. Brain
Yeah,
surgery, police officer, and being in the aviation space. Hopefully, we'll learn a little bit more about how you view the role that you do and learn more about kind of those connections a bit. Next question I
absolutely.
have for you is actually around your current role. So, back to regular programming, being in contract management at Boeing, how would you describe some of your roles and responsibilities for the audience?
Yeah, so the thing about contracts is so diverse. Every single day is different and every single day is unique. But a common theme that I have at Boeing is that I'm working and collaborating with our customer a lot. And by our customer, I mean Boeing's United States government customer, which in this case is the US Navy. So I work with them a lot when it comes to looking at updated contract documents, looking at what are parts or what are some different requirements needed for the fleet of V-22 aircrafts. And I help with the negotiations, the writing, and also the selling of V-22 aircrafts itself. So it's a very interesting job in that regards. And at least at Boeing, when it comes to actually selling an aircraft or a different part or a specific rather part of an aircraft, it involves a lot of moving parts. So it involves working a lot cross-functionally with different teams. So I'm collaborating with supply chain a lot, collaborating with people in estimating and pricing, engineering, project management, program management, and trying to get everyone on the same page in regards to ensuring that everyone is on top of their deadlines in order to ensure that we make the Navy happy. So that is a little bit about what I do in a nutshell, just a really general overview.
No, that's really helpful. You're connected to the money. My man is selling Boeing planes to customers, which is huge. So I appreciate you for sharing that. Pivoting
Thank
to
you, man.
skilling a little bit, skills. How would you talk about those top skills that are needed to thrive in your role?
Yeah, so believe it or not, actually, a lot of people may think that you would need some form of technical skill set, like you need to be fancy in Excel or something like that. That's actually
Mhm.
not the case at all.
Okay.
Um, in fact, one thing that really stands out between a good contract specialist and a great contract specialist is your soft skills. So how are you when it comes to interacting with customers? Are you able to empathize and put yourself in their shoes and try to see the problem that they're trying to solve from their perspective, hands on?
Yeah.
um, it requires a lot of organizational skills, so being organized with your documentation, being involved and on top of communication, um, knowing how to talk with different members of different teams, right? So I feel like one major key component is building relationships, because you're going to need that in order to get a sale done, because you wouldn't be able to do it all by yourself. It's a bunch of teams coming in together to help sell this product or to help negotiate this contract or work on this proposal to sell to the government. So yeah, a lot of soft skills for sure. Of course, you're going to need to know like basic Excel and how to use Outlook
Mhm.
and things of that nature. But it's mainly communication, organizational, and negotiating skills.
That's great insight to provide people on skills that they can potentially look to sharpen before they enter into a role that is similar to yours, or even people who are in those roles who maybe don't have a coach or they're not really sure what skills they should refine a bit. I also want to get from you some insight, not just about skills, but also about proximity to different organizations that individuals can join. If they're looking to be aspiring finance majors, or if they're looking to work in a similar field as you, being aerospace, missile defense, if they're looking to work in contracts, even more specifically, are there any organizations, any programs that you would recommend people join to be in greater proximity to either of those three different aspects of the work that you do now?
Absolutely, that's such a great question, Xavier. So I would say there are two organizations that really come to mind, three actually, and I'm pretty sure you know all of them. The first is Alpha. The acronym is ALPFA, which stands for the Association of Latino Professionals for America. Um, this is an organization that used to concentrate on finance and accounting before heavily, and it has rebranded to like include finance, accounting, and just business in general, even consulting and engineering as well. And Boeing is actually partnered with Alpha, so Boeing actually attends their national convention, and usually Alpha tends to be in um, school chapters in most schools, and if not, you could always partner and see if you could create like an Alpha chapter on your campus, and also externally outside of campus as well. So it's a great opportunity to just so outside of campus, there could be something such as like Alpha Seattle, right? So that's a city chapter. So you would be able to interact with many different peers and just colleagues from different industries, and it's a great way to network with people. And you are going to run into, people that work at Boeing, but you're also going to run into people that work at other aviation industries such as Lockheed Martin, Raytheon, Northrop Grumman, or even other companies like Microsoft, Accenture, Google, etc. Um, Other organizations is NABA, which is the National Association of Black Accountants. It's such an amazing organization, and it has helped me a lot. And also, you already know I got to shout out MLT as
Got
well.
to, got to.
Yes, sir. So MLT is an amazing organization. Stands for Management Leadership for Tomorrow, and it gives you the opportunity to interact with many different peers across a wide array of industries. You're able to connect with coaches. You're able to set up informational interviews. So there's really a wide array of opportunities, and of course, you are going to meet people that work at Boeing and in aviation that are a part of MLT too. So those are the three that come to mind automatically.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. Well, question about contract management, question about the teams that you work collaboratively with. How would you describe within the defense industry, within more specifically being a person in finance, working within contract management, how would you describe all the different, let's say, college backgrounds or backgrounds in general that are around you? What does that diversity look like? Are you constantly just working with everyone who comes from a finance background? Or would you say that there's some diversity where there are some individuals who work within contract management who have accounting, or maybe they have general business, or just broadly, how can a person be more informed about the individuals that they'll work with, as well as the different degrees that they can go get to end up where you are? Is it only finance, or is there some wiggle room where there are kind of diverse backgrounds needed to be in your area?
Great question. So the amazing news is that it's not only finance. So you don't have to have a finance degree only to get involved in contracts, right? And just to silo and go a little bit off topic as well, because I think it's important for the viewers to hear this. I've personally known people that were music majors and they got into investment banking and they got into sales, and people that were involved in marketing and they got involved in finance and hedge funds. So
Wow.
I would have to say this, when it comes to your major, don't let that hold you back. Don't let that dissuade you. Now, going back on topic, on my team, personally, my colleagues came from a wide array of different backgrounds. I know a colleague of mine. I believe he ended up he studied sociology or anthropology. He ended up working as a bartender at first. He ended up then going into selling like life insurance services, and after that, he pivoted into contracts, and he's currently a contracts management specialist at Boeing. So, and I know another colleague who had another unconventional background. He was he was like a manager for his dad's family business. So his dad owned a mushroom farm, and he would help like run the financials and help with like planting mushrooms and things of that nature. He was into agriculture, and he pivoted into contracts at Boeing. So you don't need to necessarily have a strict finance background. There are people that are in contracts that majored in communications or in English or whatever the case may be, and they're currently here right now. So I think what does matter is your intention, right? And you showcasing your level of interest. So like, let's say, for example, you're in finance, but you really want to get into sales. You could showcase that in a wide array of ways, whether that's like showcasing that through personal projects on your resume, talking about different things that you've done in the community. So you could say, oh, I'm in charge of sales and outreach for this nonprofit in my community, or I'm part of like this volunteering, like 501c3, which is a nonprofit organization. Things of that nature. So there's always a wide array of things you could do in that front. And I apologize, Xavier. I'm not sure if I missed another part of your question.
No, you're good. You honestly answered it perfectly. Really sharing at length the different backgrounds people can have in this space. That's exactly why I asked the question. So when people are watching the pod, if they ever feel as though they're stuck because of the degree that they chose to pursue, or because they don't really know many degrees outside of just one that they're interested in getting, this really helps broaden their horizon on you have options. And if you've already committed to a certain degree and you need to graduate within that area, you're not stuck either. So you answered it perfectly. I really appreciate that. Now I want to ask you about advice that you would give yourself if you could go back to undergrad to better prepare yourself for your current role or for life, wherever you have that perspective.
Wow. Yes. I would say if I were to just go back, or rather just give advice to my younger self in college and undergrad, I would tell myself to take more risks in just exploring different extracurricular activities, different clubs on campus, and just really put myself out there more. And specifically, what I would tell myself is to take more risk, right? Because I feel like you're able to gain so much reward and you're able to see what are some things that you're really passionate about and also what are some things you don't like at all
Mm-hmm.
through taking risks, through diversifying, through having an open mind and putting yourself out there and being brave, right? And just knowing that, everyone is on their journey and that there are going to be mistakes and challenges and also just beautiful experiences along the way. So that's what I would tell myself. I would also, maybe I would take on another major.
Mm.
Like instead of doing finance, just because I feel like looking back, I'm confident I would have been able to get into finance either way, even though my major was not in finance. I feel like if I were to have redone, or rather, if I feel like if I were to redo college, I would major in math and economics, and I'll do a minor in two other things like Spanish or
Yeah.
international business or Spanish and international business or something
Mm-hmm.
like that. So, and that's just to get like more exposure to things that I love.
Yeah.
So I would say, you know, don't sell yourself short. Try to do as many things as you can while also at the same time just ensuring that you have the time and the capacity to take all of them on, so you're not overloaded, so you're not overwhelmed. So
Yeah.
so yeah, that's what I
I
would say.
love that. Now that is a perfect transition, but before transitioning to the next question, I definitely also, if I could redo things, I probably would also have studied Spanish in college.
Oh
I studied
wow.
Spanish for like a few years in high school, and I feel as though I built up some decent fluency up until graduating. And studying engineering, there wasn't a ton of space in the curriculum for me to add those classes, but if I could do it all over again, that probably would be a step that I would have taken too. And I
Dude,
think
same here.
there's like a common trend for people listening. If you're still in undergrad or you're in high school and you're going off to school, really think about what you really enjoy. And I think I would tell anyone, if you spend 4 to 5 years in high school or starting in middle school studying a language, I don't think you understand how fluent you are when you graduate. It's great to continue that so you can continue to stack those years of learning another language, because over time, if you don't use it, you lose it. And even if
Yes.
you're passionate about the language like I am and you maybe hold on to a decent amount, you still will lose your vocabulary a little bit. So that's a shout out and a plug for anyone. If you're in high school and you're studying a language, continue studying in college. You will think back and say, I wish I was fluent. I wish I was bilingual. So as I mentioned, a perfect transition when you mentioned being overwhelmed, or having a lot on your plate or experiencing that. And I think a lot of us at different points in our lives, we felt that. There are days where you kind of go up and down and you might feel a little bit more overwhelmed on some than others. With you being a career coach and being a mentor for so many, and having a lot of experiences, what have you picked up along the way to give people advice on how they can better manage their mental health, and how they can, on days when they feel like things are so overwhelming and they feel like they're managing a lot and maybe even experiencing low points in their careers, what's some general advice that you have for people to deal with that and continue to thrive and prosper?
Absolutely, absolutely, Xavier. That's such a beautiful question, and I feel like I could talk maybe for an hour just about this, but I won't. I won't. I
All
promise.
right, all right.
um, I would say, um, gosh, where do I begin? So when it comes to mental health and just ensuring that your mental health is in check, so you don't feel overwhelmed or overburdened, or you know you are still moving. I would say there's so many different components, but I will break it down into just three really simple buckets. The first is your body, right? How does your body feel? Like, do you feel exhausted? Do you feel sluggish? Do you feel energetic? Like, what do you feel? The second, of course, is your mind, your mental. Like how's your self talk? How are you feeling about getting things done? Are you feeling motivated? Are you wanting to procrastinate? Like, what are your strategies? Are you taking things on, or are you coping and avoiding? And the third thing is I would say is connection. Connection is, how connected do you feel to yourself? How connected do you feel to a higher power, to life? I personally believe in God. And how connected do you feel to like your loved ones, right? And I would say those three aspects are super important, and many people tend to um, find these things just differently. It could be through friends, it could be through family, it could be through um, going out to a concert, whatever the case may be. Um, I would say the best thing that you could do when you are just feeling just mentally off or exhausted is just taking the time to reflect,
Mm.
really tune out the noise. Because when your mental health is depleting and when you're in a rut, that means that you're in a different state. You're in a state where you don't feel like your prime self. So the best thing for you to do is you need to get out of that state. And that could be through movement, right? It could be through exercise, and it doesn't even have to be exercise. It could be something that you love, such as dancing, swimming, biking, something to get the body moving so that energy is flowing. It could be through journaling when it comes to like connecting with yourself, connecting with God just through words, through finding things, that you want to reflect on, right? Maybe you could just like reflect on a specific day of the weekend. You could be like, oh, hey, I really didn't show up, for myself or for my significant other or for my friend the way I wanted to. Or maybe like I snapped on a person, or I didn't do what I said that I was going to do. Like, what was the root cause of that? Like, how am I feeling right now? Just taking the time to listen to you, understand yourself, be with yourself, know yourself is something that could help you significantly, because you're able to see, like, okay, what are the things that light, a beautiful spark, a beautiful fire inside of you? What are the things that turn you off and you're like, no, like, I don't want to do this, right? So I touched upon like the body, the physical aspect of it, and also the mental aspect of it. But also I would say just really taking the time to ask yourself, okay, like what are some things that are really like just taking away a lot of time from me, right? And for me, I know everybody is different. I don't want to like say something that may come off to others like, where they're like, hey, I don't want to do this. But for me, what really works for me is I unplug off of social media. Like, Xavier, I'm not sure if you saw my Instagram recently, but I'm not there, so you wouldn't be able to search me up.
I did it.
But yeah, like when you take the time to unwind and unplug and tune out the noise, you're able to really see where your issue is, because you can't hide away or run away from it, right? Because social media can sometimes be a coping mechanism. Oh, I'm overwhelmed. Let me just take the time to go on my bed and just scroll on social media, right? So um, when you take the time to just really remove distractions, you're able to see, okay, what is the core, what is the root that needs to be, solved.
Yeah.
And yeah, you just go at it from there.
Okay. That was a great crack at it, man. I really appreciate that answer. I think it was very thorough and a lot of wisdom. And it really shows the experiences that you've had for you to be able to summarize some of that advice for others. So I hope that that pours into someone listening where you can connect or relate with Chris, some of the choices he's made and observations that he's also made. And hopefully that will be of aid to you in your professional journey. Well, Chris, we've arrived at the last segment of the podcast, man. This is called Three Piece. And what I need from you is a three piece about your career. Can you share three words that you would use to describe your career journey thus far?
3 words. Wow.
You can use hyphens.
Good to know. Okay. 3 words would be unpredictable, which is not really conventional to start off with, but I could explain why. Unpredictable, diverse is the second word that comes to mind. And the third word that comes to mind, or the third phrase, I would say is continuous learning. I don't know if that counts. Continuous
Hey,
learning.
it's all right. We'll put an imaginary hyphen there. It
All
works.
right, cool. Learning, I guess. Yeah.
Okay.
So I would say those are the three that come to mind.
Yeah, I love that. It's always my favorite. One of my favorite parts of the pod is hearing how people are describing their journeys in only three words and what speaks to them the most about all of the important decisions that we make. You know, when we think about our careers, we're the ones who are kind of writing the script. You know, we are the ones manning the ship, and life moves by pretty quickly too. So being able to look back and think of those three words sometimes is very revealing to ourselves. Of
Yeah.
I put in all this work, I've made all these decisions, it's taking me all around the world, and here's how I would describe those three words, and it can be very grounding for some. So thank you for sharing that. Hopefully that is something that people find really insightful. A next question I have for you, man. Throughout those three words, throughout your career journey that created those three themes that you called out, who or what has inspired you along the way?
Wow. I would say a lot of people have inspired me, but there are two really huge people that come to mind. There are people that I consider family. They are family. The first person is my mom. Um,
Shout out Ma Dukes.
yep. Shout out Ma. Um, yeah, she didn't go to college. She didn't even graduate high school, and she went through just so much trials and tribulations and just challenges in her life. But she always followed her gut feeling. She always believed in God. She always expressed so much love and positivity. And even though she was raised around dysfunction, she provided me with so much love. And she was so brave. And she remained so strong despite everything that she went through. And, if it weren't for her, I wouldn't be in the States. I wouldn't be born and raised here in the US, because she immigrated from a small island in the center of the Caribbean called Martinique. She worked as a housekeeper her entire life, and she still does. And I remember her vividly working 50 to 60-hour work weeks, sometimes even 70 to 80-hour work weeks. And there would be times where she would struggle to pay bills. She would struggle to pay rent on time. I would be fed, and she would, go to sleep without eating a meal. And, she knew when I was a younger kid that I had trouble with concentration and learning, and she invested in, in private schools, and she spent like close to $400 a month for me just for school, which was a lot of money for her. Um, and yeah, I wouldn't be who I am today if it weren't for my mom. I wouldn't be doing the career that I'm doing right now. I wouldn't have gone to college. I don't think I would have even graduated high school if it were not for my mom. So she's definitely been such a huge advocate, and I appreciate her so much. Um, the second person that comes to mind is someone by the name of Krish. Um, his name is spelled Krish, and he is someone that I felt like he was just placed in my life by God. Um, and I consider him to be a fatherly figure because I wasn't raised with my father. Um, and he was there from the age of when I was 7 years old. And he would teach me about like English, math, and the sciences. And believe it or not, Xavier, from the age of 7 all the way up until the age of 22, when I graduated college, he was actually my tutor. He taught me on and off different classes and different courses because I really struggled with school at times. Like I had a learning disability, I had ADD. It was hard for me to fidget. I wouldn't be able to stay at a desk for more than an hour. I would be like, I'm out.
Yeah.
And he was one of the most patient, kind, caring individuals. You know, he was there. He was there for me. He really advocated for my education. He taught me for like PSATs, SATs, ACTs, which are all examinations to transition from high school to college. He was there for Regents exams, which are New York State exams that you need to take in high school in order to graduate with a high school diploma. He was there when I took some of the hardest courses in college, and I'm like, I don't even understand this. And he was just a guide where, like, he himself may have not even known how to, like, solve the problem, but he would always find out because he had this engineering background. He was super smart. He is super smart still.
Yeah.
And those are the two people that really come to mind. Like, I would not be where I am if it were not for those two people. I love them so much.
Yeah, that's amazing. Really appreciate the openness, and your mom sounds great, and it sounds like everybody needs them a Krish around to get through school and get through life, man. But that's some good stuff, man. This has been a huge honor and pleasure to have you on. We've known each other for a few years now. I knew with your heart and seeing you on social media here and there prior to you jumping off, but especially like LinkedIn, just seeing your commitment to service and your passion for helping others achieve their dreams. I knew this pod was a great fit for you and having you on, man. And the last question I have for you is, what else do you have going on? How can people get plugged in with what you're doing, even with your loved ones, or just getting connected with you overall? So I hand you the mic here to let people know how they can pour into you.
Thank you, Xavier, and I really appreciate you having me on the podcast. I would say if you all would love to connect with me, please feel free to do so via LinkedIn. Xavier will put my link in his description. In regards to things that I'm working on, I'm really passionate about mentorship, and I'm really passionate about career coaching. I know that I didn't dive into it that much here on the pod, but I've had the opportunity to mentor people now for close to 7 years. I've been doing it ever since November of 2017.
Oof.
And it's something that I'm really passionate about. I love to serve others. I love to give back to my community. I love to help individuals a lot. And my journey started off with just a simple passion for helping people, for just connecting others with other people that I knew, and just for lifting others up as I climbed. And that slowly but surely progressed into a side business. I started to charge for my services around August of 2020, and that it has grown ever since. So I'm incredibly grateful, very, very fortunate about that. So if any of you all just want to connect, just to learn more about me, feel free to send me a customized message request on LinkedIn. Just say, hey, I had the opportunity to check out Xavier's podcast. I would love to learn more about you. Happy to chat. I would be more than happy to chat. And if you are interested in mentorship and career services, please feel free to sign up for my mentorship. Always want to go above and beyond to help people land their dream offers and their dream jobs. And I'll provide Xavier my Calendly, and he could link it and put it in the description. So thank you.
You got it. You guys check out the link below. It is in the description as you are watching this. Really appreciate you guys pouring into Chris as he's been here sharing a lot of his insight, pouring into you. Well, man, we are at the end. Brother, we'll be in touch. Thank you so much for stopping by, and you enjoy the rest of the summer, man.
Thank you, bro. You too.
All right.
You too, man.
Peace, brother.
Peace. Take care.
All right, guys. Another episode down. We've been cranking out the content for you. This has been super exciting to have this episode with Chris. Great guy. Another finance major. I think I might have only had one other, but despite whatever anyone's majoring in or where they work at, the goal is to provide diversity for you to find different career paths, see different journeys. I think there were so many interesting and unique characteristics with Chris that I hadn't had on my channel before, and things that I had learned about him that I didn't even know. And that's the beauty of doing this work. As always, like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know what career you want to see next. What type of identity or what community would you like to see highlighted next? That's why we are here, which is to serve. Also, check us out on all platforms. We are streaming if you prefer audio. Check us out on Spotify, Amazon, and Apple. This was a blast. And as always, stay happy, stay blessed.